be aware those people are going to enter that situation. And
Yeah.
then you can step in and help them because they made perhaps a wrong choice.
Yep.
And so you can help them out of their wrong choice. You can make a little money for yourself. You can help them. And so it's a win. I hate to use this phrase because it's a win-win situation. They get out of their.
Hello, you're listening to Ready, Set, Go Real Estate Investing Podcast, presented by Brandon Elliott. This show will be going over all aspects of real estate investing and is intended to educate, motivate, and prepare you to take action on your first or next real estate investment. For more information, please visit BrandonElliottInvestments.com. Thank you for listening and enjoy.
Welcome back, everyone, to Ready, Set, Go Real Estate Investing Podcast. I am your host, Mr. Brandon Elliott. I'm excited today. We have a veteran in the game, basically almost 30 years at this point in real estate investing. So a ton of wealth and knowledge right here. Started in '94, Brian Penn, located over in Colorado. And I mean, you've done everything. You've done probate, long-term rentals, vacant land, multifamily. You have an incredible book, really inspired because you were going to all the local RIA groups, the meetups, and you saw a lot of brand new people that were lost, confused, and needed guidance, needed that mentorship. Obviously, you can't help everybody. So the best way to be able to help everybody and the biggest impact is jumping on shows like this and being able to get out a physical book so that it's a no-brainer, right?
Yeah.
So I personally learned a ton off of the books, the podcasts, just like this, and YouTube originally getting started. But your book has changed a lot of lives, just putting out last year. And it is titled Real Estate Investing for Beginners, which it's a pretty no-brainer, right? Gets right to it, which I can appreciate. But I think what really gravitates towards me the most, and I think a lot of the listeners right now, is we're in a recession right now, right? Like we're in one of those pivotal points that all true wealth, like all the big companies, success leaves clues, right? Like the wealth is really leaving the stepping stones of what to do next. And all the big wealthy companies have made their money in recessions.
Right.
And you've gone through that special time of 2008 to 2012, where privately you and I were speaking. That's when you made the most impact, right? You made the biggest transformation. So I'm excited to deep dive with you on that, talk about motivated sellers, how to get that. But for anybody out there that doesn't know who you are, where you're from, and what you're up to, do you mind just giving that 30,000 foot view?
Sure. My name's Brian Penn, which you already said. And I got interested in real estate investing. I was finishing up a postdoc at the College School of Mines in a kind of an arcane field of geochemistry, and realizing I didn't want to teach. I said, well, what am I going to do when I grow up? Yeah. So I got this flyer about probate, and I took the last $5,000 in $1995 and took a chance and went down to into Phoenix and took a course, a 3-day course on probate. And one of the interesting things about that is, well, I thought was interesting, was I went there and I came back and I immediately put everything I had to work. And I picked up a couple houses that I've 1031 and multiplied many times into multiple properties. And we got a list at the course that said, hey, you call up any of these people you want at any time. So a year later, I called the 49 other participants, because there were 50 people at the class, and I was the only one that had done anything with the probate stuff. Wow. And so you can take these classes, but you have to implement. You have to go ahead. You can be as educated as you want, but if you don't start taking action, nothing will happen. And so I finished that at the College School of Mines, and I actually went for a second postdoc down in Texas, and everything changed. Probate's very different in Texas. Yeah. And so I went ahead and actually I got on it wasn't Ron LeGrand, it was Carlton Sheets, no money down. I saw an infomercial, signed up, and I got a number of properties using that. Nice. So you just educate yourself. You don't have to go. I know, like, you talk to Brent Bowers, and he's a very high-end person. He will go and spend the $5,000 or $10,000 or more on a course. And I'm on the low end of stuff. I'll spend $100. I'll find out what I need to know, and I will go do it. So as things progressed, I would change. You adapt with your environment. The environment's going to change. And so you just say, okay, you can then do different things. The old Marine Corps, my father's a Marine. So the old Marine Corps thing is adapt, improvise, and overcome. You adapt to the current environment. Like currently, I went through single family houses. I did pre-foreclosures all through all that time. And now, because of the frenetic activity that was in housing here in Colorado Springs during the last 5 or 6 years, I went over to land, and I'm doing land now. And I'm seeing in the future that in the near future, we're going to have another situation like we had in 2008 to 2012 with subprime, where the mortgages, where people's interest rates are so high, they're not going to be able to afford the mortgages. And so you're going to have to learn how to adapt to that. And a technique I learned at that point that I used quite a bit in 2008 to 2012 was taking properties subject to the underlying mortgage. And you can learn how to do that. There's a course by one of my mentors, who's Bill Bronchek, who's up in Denver. He has a website called legalwiz.com. And so it's pretty cool. And I mentioned him pretty heavily in my book. But somewhere just before COVID, I was going to start a course, have monthly meetings, and talk about all this stuff. So I figured if I'm going to start a course, I should have a book that really is an outline for the course. And that was the impetus to write the book. And so what happened there was we couldn't have any meetings. There were no meetings. So I did record a course on Udemy, and all of this is available. Links to this are available on my website. But what I want to do is get people for the next big opportunity to gain wealth in real estate. And it's coming. I'm like chomping at the bit because I'm like, I'm ready to go there again. But we're still a few months away. I would say 6 to 8 months, maybe even a year away from when the real opportunities are going to emerge. Sure. And so I'm like, I can really do this now.
Yeah, you're ready. I love it.
I'm ready, and maybe I'm a person that takes action directly, which probably is the case. I just, I'm one of those people that if I want to do something, I'm going to jump on it. It's like when I did the course, I was like, okay, well, I don't know how to do any of this stuff. I don't know how to set up a camera. I don't know how to do this. And so I just taught myself, and got on there and developed an hour-and-a-half course. I wrote a PhD dissertation, but I've never written a book. So that was a learning experience, but I knew that I had to get it in a format. And so you just go do it. It's just like a dissertation. You don't just suddenly write a dissertation. You don't suddenly write a book. You do it one day at a time, one step at a time, and lay out your map and do it and stay with it. To stay with it is the hardest part for most people.
They say that the best way to eat an elephant, right, is one bite at a time, right? Exactly. So it's a lot of people can easily get overwhelmed and uncomfortable by looking at the big picture and God, like to get $1 billion, to be able to make all this impact, to be able to help out the whole world. It's like it starts with one person at a time, one transaction at a time, all these small steps to be able to make the progress that you're looking for. You mentioned a couple of great things that I want to be able to just highlight here for a second. Yeah. You said that you were working on probate originally, and then you went to Texas and you were trying there. It was a different market, right? The changes. And I think that's very important to highlight for a moment. To any brand new listeners out there that are getting started, you see the new shiny product, the new shiny guru online, even, visiting us and watching, saying like, well, Brandon talks about doing the BRRRR strategy, or Brian's talking about, vacant land. It really depends on your strategy. Does it work in that location? It works. Right. It just depends on where you're doing it, right? So things will change and markets change. So it's important to identify where we're currently at in the market, where we are projected to go in the future. Like that's why Brian and I are so excited about the next 6, 8, or 12 months. There's opportunities coming. You want to get prepared today, now, so that you're set up for success to truly make generational wealth. And it really just comes down to actually positioning yourself properly. So I think that's a big key factor there that the listeners should know, that, the strategies change when, the different locations and so forth, and the market. I think investing in yourself is so crucial when it comes down to, obviously, all the books, all the podcasts, all the information is online. If you want to save time, though, I think to really be able to take the elevator instead of going up all the damn stairs and getting pushed down the stairs a few times and on your own, it can save a lot of time. It can save a lot of heartache and a lot of learning curves in between. So I'm a firm believer in investing in yourself because I've always got an ROI, and when you're action driven, when you're like really prepared to be able to take action and not have excuses, that military mindset, right? You're determined to win. So even in the worst case scenario, I've had bad mentors in the past and I still made it the best, scenario ever.
Yeah.
So I think that's a very crucial aspect.
And I cover that as a chapter in my book, whether to have a mentor or whether you can do it yourself.
Yeah, of course.
You can do it yourself, but you're fighting a learning curve. And I think mentors can be very, very useful.
Yes.
But you have to have the gumption to get up and do it yourself. You got to get up every day. Nobody can get up for you. So you jump on it and you stay with it and you plug away at it every day a little bit and you'll get there. And that's what I'm saying. You write one or two paragraphs on your dissertation every day. You write something. You just make an incremental step towards that. You call a few people, you make some offers, you move along, and you keep a tab on the current environment, the current housing environment. And so that's what I try to do.
It's good. Yeah. Yeah. And we wrote our book saying, action driven, really talking exactly about that stuff, to take it one step at a time and be able to build up that momentum that will kind of like going to the gym. It sucks waking up early, going to the gym, but afterwards it feels good and you start building the momentum to crush the rest of the day. So Brian, talk to me for a second about this opportunity that's coming up for all these investors out there, brand new or intermediate with a couple properties under their skin.
One thing is, you mentioned this too, is you got to have a tool chest that has a bunch of different tools in it.
Sure.
You got to know different ways to work and to help people, because the primary goal of real estate investors is to help people out of their situation.
That's right.
And so what we're looking at now is a very similar situation as we saw in 2008 to 2012 with subprime meltdown. And so we are getting really close to that. And it's a few months away. And I think I'm addressing your question. I distracted myself for a second, but I think I'm addressing your question.
No,
sadly.
You are. Yeah, so it's just the opportunities that are coming up. For anybody out there that doesn't understand subprime for a moment, do you mind just explaining that?
Okay, the subprime meltdown was when the mortgage lenders were forced to lend to people that didn't have really super good credit rating.
Sure.
And so those people started to not make their payments, which pulled a lot of companies like Bear Stearns, stuff like that, into bankruptcy. And so we saw the whole market collapse like that. And there are a couple things going on right now. I don't know if you're aware of the Evergrande, what happened with Evergrande in China. The subprime meltdown, ours in the United States, was a total of $6 trillion. And that was pretty massive. The world went into a recession, everything like that. China's economy, their property management, I don't know if you've heard of the ghost cities in China or anything like that, but the CCP only let the Chinese people invest in real estate. They can't invest in anything else. And so what that represents is a quarter of their GDP, to the tune of $60 trillion, is collapsing. And they don't know what to do about it. So that's going to have a worldwide effect. The collapse of China is coming. And it's just a matter of whether the ripples reach us soon enough. That's one side of it. The other side is with the Fed raising the interest rates from 0 to 2% up to 6 or 7%, houses that people could afford at 2% are now no longer affordable. The mortgages are just unbelievable. And so unbelievably high. So if you go to buy a house, what you could afford at 2%, you have no way of affording at 6%. So people are going to be upside down as the price of houses start to drop. So they're going to be upside down, not be able to sell their homes because no one can afford this way overpriced. It's overpriced, is a subjective call, but these very high valued houses. And so when I do this, what I'm concerned about more, because I've done a bunch of single family homes, is can I afford the monthly payment?
Yes.
And can I rent it for more than the monthly payment? I don't care that it's way overpriced. That doesn't bother me. What I want to do is, can I find a delta, a difference between what I rent it for and what I got to pay the mortgage for? And so I can help these people out of their situation. They may not be able to sell their house. Yeah. They may be underwater, can't afford the realtor fees or anything like that. But I can go in, work with their note, work with the mortgage, and then take over their note and then move forward with that. They can go on and get another property, maybe a lesser value property, but they can still get out from under the situation. And we're also trying to avoid them going into foreclosure. And I did a bunch of that. So it's
I think this is such a big key component of getting creative because we are problem solvers as a real estate investor, especially if you're going direct to the seller, which is ideal, right? You want to be going that route. If not, you're getting it from a wholesaler or an agent that has already taken skin off the game. So that's why we're big believers in, if you're getting started in real estate, it's so important to identify all the different moving pieces to get creative. I mean, there's 30 plus ways, 100 plus ways, Bigger Pocket says. We've really broken it down, 30 plus ways to make money in real estate. And the more understanding from A to Z what each strategy looks like, it will help really prepare yourself with all the tools in the tool chest, right? And on the tool belt, and be able to get more creative and help out, whether it's subject to or taking over the mortgage and so forth, and just carrying notes and so forth. So there's many different creative strategies that you can do.
That's kind of what I try to identify in my book. The book is basically for the total new person to real estate investing. I don't go into the 30 ways. I go into a number of basic strategies that they can they can do from the start. And once you get educated on these basic strategies, then you can go to these real estate meetings and interact with other real estate investors, more experienced real estate investors. And then you can learn some of the nuances, the more nuanced aspects of making money in real estate. I start with bird dogging. Well, do you have any money? If you don't have any money, then bird dogging or driving for dollars is a good place to start. If you have a lot of money, then maybe you want to go into a REIT, or it's, there's hands-on and hands-off type of real estate investing. And I kind of break that down in the book.
And we were talking about the interest rates for a second. I think it's important for people to realize, because what we're hearing on the news, what we're hearing from everybody is the interest rates are so high. They're so high. I think we were spoiled for the longest time. And yes, it is higher. I wouldn't say it's the highest that it could go. It's been higher in the past. And
I've been at 14%. I remember the days of 14%. They were insane.
Yeah.
I was younger then, by the way.
I think in the early 90s or even 80s, it was up to like 19% and so forth. So it's like,
it was insane.
Yeah. So we're still very, very blessed, ladies and gentlemen. But yes, the matter of the fact is, whether you think it's high, whether you think it's low, whatever it may be, it's irrelevant. It's whether or not you are in the game or not. And
That's right.
And it's because when the interest rates were so low for so long, okay, let's acknowledge this, the playing field was a lot more open. There was a lot more availability for you to qualify for a mortgage. Now that the interest rates are a little bit higher, the average waitress or, school teacher, unfortunately, doing it on their own, depending on which market and so forth, you may qualify for a heck of a lot less. And that may not even be reasonable or doable in your market. And that's the sad truth behind it. So less people are on the playing field right now. There's so much fear going on because everybody hears us out and acknowledges hey, the big, whatever's coming up, we should get prepared. We should hold off for another 6, 8, 12 months. And I kind of go back and forth with this. I think if you're really strapped and you have no creativity in you, then maybe you should hold off. Okay. Yeah. But realistically, I'm seeing more opportunities come across my desk on a weekly basis today and every other week in the last 3 to 6 months, just for the simple fact of so many people are out of the game now. And there's still problems out there. There's still us investors that can perform that need to solve problems.
That's right.
So I think it's important to identify, just because the interest rates are higher, if, just like you mentioned, Brian, if you can lock in and make sense of a deal, creatively or not, make sense of a deal and you're cash flowing on the interest rates currently and lock this in, you're set up for success. Because guess what? Now you own it. You can refinance later when the interest rates go down. Or worst case scenario, if everybody thinks that the interest rates are going to keep going up, well, now you just locked it in and you're cash flowing.
That's right. That's right.
So incredible opportunities.
One thing I want to make sure that people understand is Brent Bowers, wonderful guy, great guy and everything. He just jumped on the whole thing and he's 100%. He's got a machine going and everything like that to generate wealth for himself. The thing is, probably the average person may not be willing to jump totally out of what they're doing. And so I tell people, get at least 1 or 2 properties supporting you for when and if, assuming that, and a lot of what drove me was just my lack of faith in Social Security and stuff like that. I worked for a large airframe manufacturer. I was making six figures for many, many years.
Yep.
But I said, this merry-go-round's going to stop.
Sure. Yeah.
I don't want to be thrown off on it. So
you don't want to rely on other people or the government or, you got to really bootstrap and protect yourself and have backup plans. I'm a firm believer as well.
That's right. And you don't have to have a billion properties. You just have a couple of properties sitting in your back pocket. Even if Social Security lasts, it's not enough for you to live on.
Sure.
And so you're going to need something to supplement it. And then there's some things like how much money you should have. These things I cover in my book and my blogs and stuff that are in my book about having how much you need to have in reserve. Because I see people go, you're going to get $800 a month from this one house. And I'm like, yeah, you are, but you've got actually all sorts of other things that are coming along with that.
Sure.
So you may get $800, but you take half of that and you put that in reserve because something bad is going to happen. And it's just a matter of, there's going to be a hailstorm and you're going to need to replace the roof and it's $25,000. What do you do? So
I've had people tenants flush diapers down the toilet, messed up the plumbing, and it was $5,000 to redo all the plumbing. And it was like, it happens.
Yeah.
And that wasn't the first year, it was 5 years in. But if I didn't plan for that stuff ahead of time and had reserves on the side, you never know. So it's crucial.
I had a friend of mine that he was doing something like you had Amanda Cruz on a few days with the mobile home parks. I love that. That was great. But he did something similar. He had 60 properties he was doing that with.
Yep.
Well, the DA got a hold of him and he has 0 properties now. He didn't go to jail, but he has 0 properties. So be aware of the laws and the regulations of everything you're supposed to follow. In Colorado, it's changing every single year. We find stuff out and you have to stay tuned with your investor friends or investment clubs and make a connection like that because you'll find stuff out. You won't get a text from your tenant that says, hey, you can't do this. You need to give me 60 days written before this and that. And it's like, wow.
Yeah.
And I went to my real estate that night. I actually went to my real estate group here and I said, do anybody know about this? And they said, no, we hadn't heard this. And so I was able to help share the sad information, but that information with them. So it's always be educated, always connect with people because people are always willing to share. It's a great group of people.
Yeah. I think that's a great tip too. Everybody first off should have some real estate, whether you love real estate, hate real estate, whatever. For passive income, you should, I'm a firm believer getting at least 3 properties. Ideally, if you can get residential multifamily, you'll get the great rates. That's 4 units and under. It's a lot different than a single family. If a single family is vacant, it's vacant. You're screwed. You're covering it. If it's a duplex, triplex, fourplex, in many cases, the odds are you're going to have something rented out and it will most likely cover your expenses, which is incredible. So that will set you up for success. But, you should definitely know your local laws. You should, and whatever side you're on, you should know both. If you're the landlord, you should know, is this a tenant friendly or a landlord friendly state? And what are the regulations? How do I serve the tenants? How do I best guide them and do it legally? Right. And vice versa.
Absolutely.
So I think it's important going to these local RIA groups, being a part of those, then you're going to be able to network and meet other lawyers potentially. And you should have a lawyer within that state that you are investing in. So, I live in San Diego. We have properties out here. We do short term and then we have long term over in Ohio. I have lawyers in both. And it's because it's crucial to know their local infrastructure and to have somebody like in your back pocket to be able to ask any questions. And they educate me on a regular basis, which is good.
I know. It's like, actually, I ended up, we had a lawyer at that meeting that I went to and he wasn't aware of these things. He goes, well, that's news to me. And I said, so I was helping him as well as other people because they can't know everything. I actually, when this happened, I called the one, Bill Bronchek, who's my lawyer mentor kind of guy. And I told him about it. He goes, and he kind of gave me the wrong information. So I went ahead and let him know because I had to go to the state and find out what all the requirements were and stuff like that. That's good. It's like I mentioned this to you earlier is I come from a family that's been wealthy on and off for many, many years. And my great-grandfather came to Colorado on a Conestoga wagon, the family lore is, and he sold razors to the miner and was fabulously rich. You can buy his razors on eBay. So I have a couple of his razors in a box downstairs. And he died penniless.
Yeah.
It was unbelievable. It all went away because he was continuing to gamble. Then his son, my grandfather, made a fortune in mattresses. He just was apparently stinking rich and stuff like that, but he died penniless. And my dad, being the ultra conservative type, having seen this, he just went straight to the dying penniless part. And I'm trying to avoid that. I'd like to have some generational way. So be thinking of, it's so hard to have the long game in mind, but keep that in mind and that's why I say, if you just buy a couple properties and just have them in your pocket for when you get older, or if you go to retire, that will be essential. And those are things
keep them. Keep them, keep the properties, please.
Yes. And so that's a lot of what I try to do with people is I weathered 2008 through 2012 because I had very conservative ideas.
Yes.
I just said, I want to have enough money to cover everything. And, it makes me a little, have a good accountant and have a good tax accountant too. Those are things that are essential so that you don't get caught. Don't mix your money. That's a good thing.
And I think there's levels to it. So I think it's important to identify like where you're currently at. Like where are you at on the spectrum here? If you are broke, busted, disgusted type of situation, you need to learn how to hustle. You need to learn how to get some income. You need to learn how to, because you got nothing to lose at this point. You have a lot more to gain. So put in the hard work. That's the time, the energy to go all in and really just start reinvesting in yourself and learn things and try things out, right? After you get the money, then start realizing, hey, how do I save more? How do I reinvest? How do I protect my money? And how do I set this up for generational wealth? Like, what does that truly look like? And get around, in my personal opinion, that really has helped me the most by investing heavily in myself to be around high-level mentors that know those things. Because to be able to get myself in the room with people that are making 50 to 100 million that can pour into me, it took, a strong dollar to be able to get into those rooms.
Oh, yeah.
But it helps and it saves me time and I can sleep comfortably knowing that I have generational wealth set up for my kids and their kids. That's the difference. That's very important to realize.
That's huge. That's what you want to do and stuff because no one wants to be poor and die penniless.
That's right. So,
I have a family history of that.
Yeah. So, Brian, talk to me. You're focusing right now on vacant land. You were telling me about a deal previously. You're making a strong 300% return on. Incredible. Yeah. Talk to me about lead generation on these.
Well, what I did was I've just started small, which is my typical thing. I take a course or something like that, and then I implement what I'm taught in the course, and then I see how long it takes for me to get the money back that I just spent on a course.
Yep.
And so that's where a cost benefit type of thing is. And so I did this with the land. Brent had said, well, look around Southern Colorado. And so basically I worked from the leads from the county-owned properties that had tax liens on them.
Yep.
And so I send out letters, which I get a lot of letters for the land I have. It's like, hey, are you willing to? No, I'm not really.
Yeah.
But
there's a right number for everything, but yeah.
Actually, no, I have a couple of properties up by Lake George that I'm trying to sell. That's a different story altogether. So I just send them letters. It's a volume thing. How do we do it? Volume.
Play the numbers game.
And so it's always the numbers game. So you just send out letters. You can do that yourself. You can hire somebody else to do it. It's really depends on I have a bunch of computer science background. So I write a lot of software. I've been scraping websites since the 1990s. Yeah. So I go out and I just write some Python code and it gives me all the data. And so I can do it that way, which is, it's like, well, what do I have more of? And, do I have more time? Do I have more money? And if you have both, then you can choose what you find entertaining to do.
Yeah,
and
what you enjoy.
Code. Yeah, I like to code, so I'll get out there and write Python code to go scrape a website and pull all the data down for me. Then I can just mail everything myself. And some people don't want to do that, and that's perfectly okay. You work with your strengths and what you want to do, because no sense in getting a master's degree in computer science if you don't need to.
Yeah, exactly.
So that's really where I am, and I've gotten a bunch of leads calling all the time because of this. You think I don't send out as many as Brent does or some of the people like that do. I'll send a couple hundred a month, and I've got a continuous stream of people calling me. It's pretty good, and So it's like, yay. So and that's all that I really can handle at this point. And some of it is that's all I really want to handle. I don't want to set up a huge machine that I've got to support this whole machine, because then I'm forced to then I've got to be much more aggressive in getting stuff. So I got to pay for these people. Where if it's just me and a small group of people, we're fine with what we do.
Gotcha. I love it. Okay. So in the next 6, 8, 12 months, talk to me. What opportunities do you think is going to be like somebody that hasn't gone through it, right? Like I got started in 2012 when the pre-foreclosures were very high. We were focusing on NODs, notice of defaults, and that pre-foreclosure type of error. So a lot of great opportunities. It was great experience for me to get in at that time.
Yes.
But I didn't see the crash. I didn't see what was going on in 08 and so forth. So what do you truly believe for anybody that hasn't experienced that yet? Like, what should we look out for?
We're going to have, and this, I was just watching a couple other some of my favorite YouTube people, and they both have converged on that. We're heading into a crash essentially for 2023. And so it's going to present huge opportunities. People are going to be upside down in their mortgages. Like I said before, they're not going to be able to sell. And that presents a huge opportunity for you as a real estate investor to help them out of their problems. They're on the cusp of major wealth generation for the people that position themselves and educate themselves to the notion of subject to. I would consider subject to, I would say lease optioning in place, properties and stuff like that. Learn a couple techniques like that, because you can step in. People are going to be panicking and frantic to try to get rid. In Colorado Springs, we have a lot of people here in the military, and the military transfers everybody. I have no idea why people come in and they go, I'm going to buy a house. Like, well, you're only going to be here for like 2 years. Why are you doing that? And they're like, because I'm going to buy a house. Like, okay,
they do that out here in San Diego because there's so many bases, and they get motorcycles and cars right away. And then 6 months later, they're selling them for next to nothing.
Yeah. And so what we have to do is just be aware those people are going to enter that situation. And then you can step in and help them because they made perhaps a wrong choice. And so you can help them out of their wrong choice. You can make a little money for yourself. You can help them. And so it's a win. I hate to use this phrase because it's a win-win situation. They get out of their problem, and you get a situation where you can actually make some money off the deal. Because the rentals, you can rent to military officers and military here and do that too. So you're kind of, you're in a special environment too, Brandon, when you're being in San Diego.
Oh yeah.
Because there's a lot of the flux of military in and out of there is pretty large. We have the same situation in Colorado. So in Colorado Springs, especially because we have like 3 bases here. So that's what I would say is the most important thing is learn a couple of these techniques, learn how to do lease options, learn how to do subject to, things like that, so that you can go in and you don't have to bring any money to the table for a lot of these, which is even better. I'm frugal, so that's keep your own money as long as you can.
Yeah. All right, Brian, any final words for the listeners out there? Somebody that might be overanalyzing this stuff, not taking enough action, any push that they might need that you could help out with?
You get educated. Find out what works for you. Sure. Get my book. You can go to my website. It's a real estate success, the number 4 and the letter U.com, real estate success for you. And I have at the top of that, my book, and I have the Udemy course and stuff like that. Get educated on the techniques you can use. And then the best thing is take action, go in some direction. What I thought happened with the original probate people is they were professional seminar attendees. They were not people that were like, I'm going to make this work. And so you kind of have to evaluate where you are and think. And part of actually I include this in the book, is this notion of the 5 whys. And you have to ask yourself, what's your motivation for trying to do this? What is it? And you have to get down to the guts of what's motivating you. You first ask, well, why do I want to get in real estate? Well, I want to get in real estate to make money. Well, why do you want to make money? Well, because I really hate my job and want something else. Well, and just keep asking more and more. And usually after 5, this is soul searching stuff. You got to get down and be serious and be honest with yourself about what's your motivation. Find your motivation and act upon that, because that will get you towards your goal. Each goal is gotten to a step at a time, so you will get there. So that's the best thing that you can do.
I love it. Well, I appreciate it. How can people get a hold of you?
Well, it's like I said, just go to my website at www.realestatesuccess4u.com. I somehow got swept into using 4U at the end of all of my websites. So it's kind of funny. It's like, this happened in 1990. And so it's like, okay, well, I'm sort of following the same pattern, but it seems to work out and it's unique enough. So it makes it fun. So that's the best way to get in touch with me.
I love it. Well, I appreciate you greatly for jumping on. Your wealth of knowledge, you've been through it, you have the experience, and I know I have a bunch of notes, so I'm sure the listeners have as well. Guys, I highly encourage you to reach out to Brian. Wealth of knowledge, like I said, and he can help you out if you need it in this type of market. So by all means, if you want to get a hold of me, you can do so on Instagram. It is Brandon Elliott Investments. Otherwise, facebook.com/Brandon Elliott Investor. And then if you're really looking to get educated on credit, I'm talking the ins and outs and being able to flip the script on the banks. We help business owners. So Credit Counsel Elite, not just me, but Credit Counsel Elite helps business owners get up to $500,000 every 6 months at 0% interest. And we can show you how to do so very quickly in 30 to 90 days. And afterwards, be able to travel hack, be able to purchase properties with credit and fix credit, build business, personal credit, and so forth. Get to the 800 FICO score in less than 30 days. If you need more information on that, we have a quick 10-minute video on our website. Feel free to check out creditcounselelite.com. That's www.creditcounselelite.com. And as always, if you haven't already, hit that subscribe button to Ready, Set, Go Real Estate Investing Podcast. What are you waiting for? Today is the time. Take action today and hit that subscribe button. You'll get the newest notification every single Monday. Leave that 5-star review after listening to a couple episodes. It means the absolute world to us. I greatly appreciate it wholeheartedly. And we will see you on the next episode next time, guys. Love you guys all so much. Brian, appreciate you greatly. Wealth of knowledge, my friend.
Thank you, sir. I really appreciate it.
Have a great day, guys. God bless.
This has been another episode of Ready, Set, Go Real Estate Investing Podcast, brought to you by Brandon Elliott. For more information, please visit BrandonElliottInvestments.com. Also, please don't forget to like, share, and leave a comment below. Thanks again for joining. Until next time, God bless.